Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. If you've spent a second here, you will know that I'm on a mission to give you everything you could possibly need to be successful in your business. Actually, it's only really what I can support you with to be successful in your business, which is sales and marketing. So I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. I'm pulling in anyone I can find as part of the Talk Marketing experience to extract their experience of sales and marketing. We are bringing you the marketing news. And like today, we are reacting to the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. Now, if you're cynical like me, I am cynical, then you might think that this is just a cheap way of bringing you more marketing content, and you would be 100% correct. This is exactly what this is. Literally, all we do is we find the very best and the very worst of content on the internet, marketing content on the internet, and I react to it. Now, there is an element of jeopardy to this because I haven't selected these videos. These videos have been selected by Clay. In the future, they could be selected by you, potentially, if you want to drop something in the comments, and I will react. So, I don't know what's going on. What's happened is that Clay has put a list together. We're going to call it the Clay list. And we will just select one of these, and we will see what it is that Clay has in store for us. Now, number 4 is already highlighted, which is a little bit suspicious. So let's go number 5. Let's copy this and let's put this into our search engine, which of course is a Google, and we will see where this takes us. So this takes us to, Nestlé, the most evil business in the world. I think this might be true. So what do I want to say about this already? What I want to say about this already is I actually believe that Nestlé might be not the most evil business, because the last one of these videos, this is the only issue, is we're not getting quite the level of randomness that I would hope for, because we did Coca-Cola, then we've done, why am I not in the middle? Which way do I need to go? Okay, that way. So we've done Coca-Cola, then we did Marlboro, and now we're looking at Nestlé, the most evil business in the world. So we're not getting quite the randomness that I would hope for, but this is the game that we're playing. I already believe that Nestlé might be the most evil business in the world. I don't know how much you know about them, but they've done some pretty horrible things at different times in their history. So anyway, let's press the play button and let's react. I'm already pretty sold on the idea that Nestlé, not the most evil business in the world, because there are businesses who are producing tobacco, absolutely no benefit. We established that in the last video. There are businesses who are producing weapons, no benefit other than the profits for the people who make the weapons. And, murdering people, it's disgusting what goes on. Coca-Cola, pretty shoddy. There's finance companies making people homeless. There's some pretty awful corporations in the world. So I'm already sold on the idea that Nestlé might be one of the most evil businesses in the world. Let's press the play button and see what they have to say.
So you're Nestle in the 1970s. You're the inventor of baby formula, a life-saving creation for babies who, for whatever reason, can't breastfeed from their mothers. But just helping moms who can't breastfeed isn't enough. It's such a small segment of the population, it's such a small customer base. How are you ever gonna make a fortune with that? Never! So you're looking to expand your formula business even more. Instead of just selling to moms who can't breastfeed, what if you could sell to every mother? If you could do that, your customer base would instantly increase by 20 to 100x. The problem is you've got some steep competition. Mother Nature's milk. Something that is vastly superior and has far more nutritional value for infants, compared to the glorified powdered cow's milk mixed with sugar that you're selling. So you need a way to fool the general public, to dupe them into thinking that formula is far better than natural breast milk. Now you may be saying to yourself, but Jake, if we did that, wouldn't we be intentionally making babies malnutritioned? Well, yes. So anyways, you need to convince the world that formula milk is 1,000,000 times better than breast milk, which means you need a little bit of propaganda. Paying.
Yeah, I'm remembering now, this is entirely disgusting, and I'm recording this and posting this today actually, so you'll see the date, but the date is, I think it's Friday the 8th of July 2022. So we've just gone into this situation. We just come through. Nobody's talking about it anymore. Where they've actually run out of baby powder in the US, or the stores were empty. Nobody's talking about it anymore. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it got resolved. I don't know how it might have got resolved. But yeah, this is one of the huge problems with marketing, isn't it? If you are doing this kind of marketing, if you are in the business of trying to create demand, then what lengths are you going to go to create that demand? I'm not personally. What I'm looking for, the kind of marketing I do, is about satisfying demand. You know, I know people who create demand. I'm not saying there's an issue with that, but by the time you are Nestlé and you are convincing the world's expectant mothers and new mothers that the milk that they're producing isn't good enough for their babies, so that they use an alternative, and then at some point in the future it runs out, this is a disaster. They're going to go on to tell us about what happened in Africa, I am sure. The marketing aspect of this, of course, is how on earth are Nestlé still in business after this ridiculously poor behavior which you're going to experience right now?
Doctors to peddle your formula. And the Nestle campaign that was concocted would turn into one of the greatest medical scandals of the 20th century, from the biggest food company in the world.
The Nestlé mafia.
When you're making up some quick, you stir until it's rich and thick. You hate to take that first little sip, 'cause you know it'll be gone in a zip. It's so rich and thick and chocolate that you can't drink it slow. If it's quick, do-do-leo. That's the saddest sound I know.
Coffee, Doctor?
Oh, fine. Have a Camel with your coffee. Thanks. You know, this night work's kind of rough, isn't it?
Yeah, to make customers is the new problem. This is the very worst of marketing. It's like, why do they have to create demand? You know, there's so much need in the world. Do you know what I mean? Why do they have to create this demand?
That's right. But a Camel's always a pleasure.
To understand how we're gonna run our propaganda campaign for baby formula, instead of starting from scratch, all we gotta do is take a lesson from some of history's foremost experts at molding public opinion: cigarette companies.
In a cigarette, it's the tobacco that counts, and Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
See, contrary to the symbol of death and disease it is today, once upon a time in the early 1900s, cigarettes were a cultural icon of sophistication, glamour, and sexual allure. A highly prized...
I mean, it's unbelievable that's true. Like, it is true. Like, all the sexy people were smoking, but they stank of cigarettes. You know, I smoked for most of my adult life. I understand this. You stink when you smoke. So how can it be sexy? How can it be? It's disgusting.
Commodity for 1 out of every 2 Americans. And how did cigarette companies achieve this symbol of sophistication? With things like full-color magazine ads with respectable-looking doctors in white coats, puffing away with slogans like "More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarettes." An early example of an influencer campaign. Why? Because who do people look up to when it comes to what they consume? Doctors. Who do people look up to determine what's cool? Celebrities. We know with mathematical certainty that large numbers of people will follow the advice of their doctors because we understand the psychological dependence men have on their physicians. So if our goal is to get mothers to choose baby formula over their own breast milk, all we gotta do is to get their doctors to tell them to. So you start Nestlé's 1970s influencer campaign to basically get doctors to say, formula good, breast milk bad. You pay doctors and nurses to suggest your formula as an alternative to breast milk? And in places like Asia and Africa, you even hire saleswomen, dress them up like nurses, and get them to hand out free samples and medical advice. And you make sure that these free samples are just big enough that by the time they run out, these mothers would have stopped making breast milk naturally, cementing a profitable, loyal customer. Who cares?
Yeah, I take it back. Maybe Nestlé is the most evil business in the world. They literally putting a stranglehold on young mothers. Can you imagine?
cares if Africa, one of your biggest markets, has polluted water? Who cares if most of the moms using your formula don't know that they need to boil the water first to prevent the bacteria in the water from making their baby sick? Who cares if it's estimated that babies who are fed formula in unhygienic conditions are between 6 to 25 times more likely to die of diarrhea and 4 times more likely to die from pneumonia compared to breastfed babies? But that's not your fault, obviously. You print the instructions on the package and they're responsible for reading them, even if they're illiterate. But then you run into a problem. Powdered cow's milk, sugar, and vegetable oil are even close to real breast milk. It contains none of the stuff that can help babies fight off diseases or build natural immunity. It doesn't even contain enough nutrients to keep a baby healthy. And in 1978, Nestlé executives were even brought before the US Senate to explain why all these babies were dying or getting sick because of their formula milk.
Would you agree with me that your product should not be used where there is impure water? Yes or no?
We give all the instructions.
Just answer. What is your position?
Of course not, but we cannot cope with that.
Well, as I understand what you say is where there's impure water, it should not be used.
Yes.
Where the people are so poor that they're not going to realistically be able to continue to purchase that, and which is going to mean that they're going to dilute it to a point, which is going to endanger the health, that it should not be used.
Yes.
All right, now, then my final question is what do you do, or what do you feel is your corporate responsibility to find out the extent of the use of your product in those circumstances in the developing part of the world? Do you feel that you have any responsibility?
We can't have that responsibility, sir. May I make a reference to...
You can't have that responsibility?
No.
So by 1981, the World Health Organization set new regulations where you can no longer compare breast milk with formula alternatives. That is a problem. A problem that can be solved by moving your marketing to somewhere with fewer restrictions, like Southeast Asia and the Pacific, where formula sales are skyrocketing, while acting like you are breast milk's biggest fan in the US and Europe, even creating a cringy baby band to get your point across.
This is a breastfeeding song.
And even after millions of people start boycotting your products, and stricter laws are put in place to stop you from tricking people into using your formula, there are still reports of Nestlé paying their doctors to promote their products, giving out free samples, and advertising in hospitals. To this day.
I would almost argue you should never give your child any formula that you haven't run by your pediatrician.
Formula milk has around a 23% profit margin, meaning companies like Nestlé make around 23 cents for every dollar in sales. And by 2026, this industry is set to be worth more than $110 billion. But if you thought Nestlé stopped there, oh, you're so sadly mistaken. What is the #1 thing humans need to survive? Aside from food, it's water. That's why the water business can be very lucrative if done right. See, tap water itself, the stuff that comes out of your sink, is pretty inexpensive. But bottle up that tap water, market it as coming from Clear Mountain Springs or Majestic Fountains, and you have a ridiculous markup. You can buy a tank of tap water for $10, use it to fill thousands of plastic bottles, and then resell that tap water for $50,000.
For one tanker load, Nestlé pays $10. Once bottled, the same water costs $50,000.
And this is not an exaggeration, by the way. Nestlé literally sold bottled tap water with one of their recent lawsuits dating back to as early as 2012. But just like baby formula, you can only get away with so much in first world countries. It's third world countries where you can really take it to an extreme. In Pakistan in 2013, it was revealed that Nestlé was diverting clean drinking water away from villages and towns and then packaging it in their factories. They would then resell that water back to the same people they took it from. Honestly, it's pretty genius if you ask me. The people in these towns were forced to drink dirty, polluted water because they couldn't afford to buy the bottled water that was actually theirs to begin with. Here is what the chairman of Nestlé had to say about whether or not everyone should have access to water.
Die eine Anschauung, extrem würde ich sagen, wird von einigen von den NGOs vertreten, die darauf pochen, dass Wasser zu einem öffentlichen Recht erklärt wird. Das heißt, als Mensch sollten Sie einfach Recht haben, Wasser zu haben. Das ist die eine Extremlösung.
Okay, so this isn't even the question. The question actually is not whether you should have a right to fresh water. The question is, if fresh water is available to you, does a corporation have the right to steal that water and sell it back to you Of course they don't. This is absolutely disgusting.
A decade later, he clarifies his position.
I've always supported the human right to water. Everyone should have enough clean, safe water to meet their fundamental daily needs.
But if you thought Nestle stopped there, you are still sadly mistaken.
Okay, I'm going to say it. That guy is evil. Something wrong with people. You know, it blows my mind. Like, how much money is enough money? How much money did they say they were making? Was it 100 billion a year from convincing new mothers that the crap that they're providing them? What did they say it was? Powdered cow's milk, sugar, and vegetable oil is better than breast milk. And now stealing people's water, and then, yeah, this guy's evil.
Dad says he can pick his favorite chocolate blindfolded. Was it that one? Nope. Try this one. Yes, that's it. No mistaking it. That's Nestle's chocolate. The smoothest, creamiest chocolate of them all. Try the blindfold test. Prove Nestle's best. N-E-S-T-L-E-S, Nestle's for the very best chocolate.
Nestle baby formula? Bad. Nestle bottled water? Bad. But at least your candy is okay, right? I mean, what could be more innocent than a Kit Kat? Wrong again. 3 million tons of chocolate is eaten every year. But have you ever wondered where those coca crops come from? Well, a good chunk of it is grown in Africa, including the ones used by Nestle, which can involve a lot of child slavery and forced labor. Chocolate is one of the products Nestle is most famous for. Kit Kat Bar 1 and the Milky Bar are all Nestle chocolate bars. And let's face it, coca is expensive. You have to bring it all the way from Africa, which is already eating into your profits. So what do? You tap into the cheap labor market. More specifically, you start buying coca beans from farms that use forced child labor to harvest the beans. And it was all going according to plan until the year 2000, when a report came out that Nestle, Cadbury, and Mars were all guilty of buying blood coca, and that they knew about it all along. Nestle promised to free its chocolate candy from slave labor by 2005. It missed that deadline, and all the deadlines after that. The excuse? Quote, the use of child labor in our coca supply chain goes against everything we stand for, end quote, says Nestle Executive Vice President of Operations Jose Lopez. Quote, no company sourcing coca from the Ivory Coast can guarantee that it doesn't happen, but we can say that tackling child labor is a top priority for the company, end quote. Which obviously made people even angrier. So to placate the masses, you collected all the coca you can find from farms that don't use child labor and made Kit Kat. You slap a fair trade label on it, and it becomes a symbol of a reformed, caring Nestle. All the while, you still continue using dirty coca for all your other candy. And when trends change from being morally correct to being environmentally correct, you switch to a much cheaper alternative, an environmentally friendly label that takes less effort, money, and resources, and diverts attention away from your shady supply chain. But if you thought Nestle stopped there, you are yet again sadly mistaken.
I see automation displaces labor in your organization too, Dr. Sloan.
Ah, Captain Q. Join me in a glass of delicious chocolate quick, won't you?
Thank you, Doctor. I could use some energy. Incidentally, one of those torpedoes you fired at me was circling, and you're sunk.
Toodaloo, Captain Q.
Some people will do anything to get rich quick. Toodaloo.
Ethiopia is one of the poorest countries in the world, and in 2002 they were in the middle of one of the worst famines in history. What does this have to do with Nestle? Well, in 1986, Nestle bought a German company based in Ethiopia that had been nationalized in the 70s. The Ethiopian government owed Nestle money and offered $1.5 million as compensation. But by 2002, due to a new exchange rate, this amount had become $6 million. As Nestle, you could have written that debt off pretty easily. There were millions of people starving in Ethiopia, and $6 million could have went a long way. It could provide safe drinking water for 1.5 million families, or anti-diarrhea medicine for 750,000 kids. But instead of writing this debt off, you demand your money back, even while you were making a $3.9 billion profit. If people disliked Nestle before, they really hated Nestle now. And by trying to get money back from Ethiopia, you commit what would be known as the greatest public relations blunder of the decade. Nestle eventually backed down due to mounting pressure of boycotts, but the damage to their reputation had been done. Today, Nestle is the biggest food company in the world. Even after years of controversial tactics to say the least, no one can deny that international need for water, formula milk, and yes, even chocolate. And they've done a pretty good job of keeping their shady past under wraps, so people are still buying products from their almost 2,000 different brands. Nestle operates in 190 countries, employs almost 300,000 people, and has 376 factories worldwide. Nestle is one of the best employers in Europe, and a powerhouse of a food company. A food company where even Nestle has admitted that 60% of its products aren't even healthy.
Yes, once again, I kind of look like an SJW. It came out a little bit more purple than I anticipated, but I assure you that it should fade out to a more natural blonde. If you're new here, we make video essays, documentaries on the most provocative stuff in the world of money, power, war, and crime. So if you're not already subscribed, click that red button below because you will not regret it. If you want more day in the life kind of stuff, you can follow me on Instagram at jtrend.io. Thanks for being part of the Watch to the End Club. Keep sharpening that mind, stay dangerous out there, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Okay, good. Right, so I realise I haven't been saying much. Why haven't I been saying much? Because I'm disgusted. I'm absolutely disgusted. Not surprised. I've known these things. We know about the slave trade around the cocoa, around the chocolate industry. I knew about the water issue and Nestlé in Africa. This brand is actually responsible for having killed babies. This is what this brand has done. What was the middle thing? The middle thing was the water. The guy came out famously and said that people don't have a natural right to water. So what they're saying is that Nestlé's right to profit from water trumps your right, my right, not your right or my right, some poor people in the third world's right to having healthy drinking water, actually stealing it from them and selling it back to them. This is the worst kind of corruption. But this is why I'm here, because as a marketer, it kind of comes up in the conversations I'm having in the talk marketing thing. Marketing people are tarred. I mean, famously, there is Bill, what was his name? His name will come to me, the comedian in the back end of the 80s and the early 90s, who said, like, if you're a marketer, essentially kill yourself is what he was saying. So we get a bad reputation, but in truth, it's not me and it's not you. It's these awful corporations. These awful corporations, cigarette companies, fast food companies, sugary drink companies, they're a death cult. Weapons manufacturers, they are basically trading on death. They basically profit from poor health and literally death. And so this is the motivation. This is exactly why I'm here, because what the realization I've come to is that it's us versus the corporations. So this is why I'm interested in you, the small business person, or you, the person who's working in marketing in a small to medium enterprise, is because you aren't part of that death cult. I'm sure nobody ever got injured or damaged, or you never caused any ill health with your products or services. So here we are trying to do a decent thing and support the people who work for us and our families. We're here trying to do the important thing. And these corporations are literally killing babies. It's insane. So this is the motivation for me. This is why this is really, really important, because these corporations are a death cult, literally. Even the corporations that we rely on in marketing, the social media platforms, cases of child depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicide are going through the roof, and those corporations aren't doing anything about it. So this is my corner that I'm fighting. It is us versus these awful, awful corporations. And that's why it's really important that I think you know how to market yourself more effectively. Because if you don't provide the products and services you provide, then it will be some corporation that does it. And even if the part of the corporation that isn't in competition with you does no harm, there will be other parts of the corporations that do. And it just goes on and on and on. So how are we supposed to trust the pharmaceutical industry when there's a pandemic, when we know that they've been paying doctors to lie to us for the last 70 years that we know about? This is the problem, is that what they're doing is really dangerous. And the only reason they're doing it is so that they can make a quid, and not a quid, billions and billions and billions of dollars. So this is the fight for me. This is the fight. It's us versus these awful, awful corporations. And there's two things we need to do. We need to get much more effective in running our businesses and be much more successful. And we need to stop buying from these awful corporations. We need to do that. We need to take responsibility. Go to a local business, support a local business, use someone you can have a conversation with, because these corporations are seriously, seriously dangerous. So what I want to do is I just want to go back to the comments and see kind of what people are saying about this. I like Jake Tran. I'm going to subscribe because I like what he's doing. What they're saying, Nestlé just failed to spend enough money. Okay, so can we zoom in? We can zoom in like this. That's too much. Nestlé just failed to spend enough money to keep these things secret. Modern companies are much wiser and have developed sophisticated ways to ensure you never, ever find out about what they're up to. I think it's actually worse than that. I think we don't care. Like, we know these things are going on, but we still continue to buy their crappy chocolate, their crappy sugary drinks, their crappy bottled water. For something weird is going on in the world that we don't seem to care. Okay, Joan Halcombe says, I tried boycotting corrupt companies. Turns out all the big ones are nasty. Now I avoid corporate food as much as possible and try not to stress about the rest. Well, good luck with that, Joan. That, to me, sounds like an eminently sensible approach. We should all be boycotting these corporations. They don't give anything back and they take way too much out. I'll come to this. The problem is that there's something about the industrialization of food that's gone on that is absolutely disgusting. Of course it is, but we all know what goes on in these factories, but we still buy their products. Me too. The problem is that it's so difficult for customers to know the ethics behind each label. As much as I wouldn't want to, I fall into buying a product from Nestlé. And I probably do that again, but I'm motivated again to stop doing that. I always check the water bottles that I drink. I eat too much chocolate. I'm going to make an effort not to buy from Nestlé again. But chocolate is bad. They've just told us that. It's amazing to see the US actually hold a corporation accountable for their actions once upon a time. For more than 30 years, I've been informed of the damage caused by Nestlé on all continents, and since then have always boycotted their products. I live in the country where this company was founded. Unfortunately, Nestlé isn't the only one. Most of the giants of the food industry have such practice. If lots of people are complaining, most are... I don't know what if that doesn't continue. Worst part is it's extremely impossible to avoid them. They're in FR Diesel, in Rolo, Butterfingers, Sweethearts, Crunch. They are in clothing brands and L'Oreal. They are in water like we see. It's about impossible to get away from them. It might be difficult, it might be challenging, but it's not impossible. You could give up all of those brands. I'm sure somebody local to you will be producing comparable products that you could use. And if they're not currently, if enough people start looking for them, they will. The irony of Nestlé's logo being a mother bird feeding her young naturally while trying to push artificial feeding. As humans, we need to stop fighting each other and come together to bring down dirty companies like these. Yes, all of them. Can't remember the last time I used a Nestlé product, and I'm so glad it's been that way. It's been months since I had any chocolate. My water comes from the government. My parents grow all the vegetables I need at our home. Rice and wheat comes from my uncle's farm, and I get milk from my neighbour's farm, where I know the cows are loved. Just a donut, you are leading a charmed life. You absolutely are. So the thing is, for me, is that this is the battle, my friends. This is why I'm here. This is why I want you to be successful. Because if you're not, the enemy is these corporations. And these corporations are literally profiting from killing babies, from killing people through obesities and cancers. And, they're putting plastic in the McDonald's food. It's disgusting what these people are doing for profit. You're not doing these things. You're not to blame. You have every right to run your business in the way that you can best and to benefit your customers and services. And that is exactly the opposite of the business model of these corporations. I'm disgusted by this. Clay, you're a genius, man. How do you keep finding these brilliant videos? I am doubly motivated again. This is the battle. It's you and me against these god-awful corporations. Keep coming here, because this is where the battle's happening.